Hi, everyone. How are you today? I want you to join me here on Facebook Live so that we can be together instead of being at the show that I was supposed to be at today, the New England Quilt Show in Springfield, Mass. I'm trying to use my phone as a second camera and it's interfering with my sound. So just let me go ahead and turn off that second camera and I'm just going to come to you this way instead. So thank you so much for joining me. You can see behind me that I am set up somewhat like a quilt show that I would be doing at one of the national quilt shows. When I go to the national quilt shows, I'm demonstrating my products. I'm usually teaching, and I have a booth where I demonstrate my products for everyone to see. So if you don't know me, my name is Sue Pelland from Sue Pelland Designs, and I have a whole series of products that make applique easier. So I would love to spend 45 minutes or an hour with you showing you some of those products and how it can help you make applique quilts in a fraction of the time of traditional methods. So I do have a few of my applique quilts here. You'll see Melissa's quilt hanging up here in the background with all of those applique leaves and the beautiful orange peel center of that quilt. Now, it is hard to see that quilt because it is up here behind my display wall, but that quilt is from the Melissa's quilt pattern. So the Melissa's quilt pattern is one of the easiest applique patterns that I have that use my Leaves Galore tools to show how to do the applique in a fast and easy way. So this no-show show that we're having today, we are going to be having this show today, tomorrow, and Saturday, the 3 days that I would normally be at the quilt show in Springfield, Mass. So today I'm going to be demonstrating for you one of my products that's called the Quilter's Chalk Line. So we're going to be looking at the features of the Quilter's Chalk Line today and different uses for that product. Now, in addition, we're also going to be going through our show specials for today and all of the products that are in that show special package. Now, that Quilter's Chalk Line is one of the items in our show special package. Then we also have our Leaves Galore tools, which are tools for cutting out applique shapes, 4 layers of fabric and fusible at a time, so you get your applique shapes done quickly and easily. Now, one of the secrets to fusible applique is using the right fusible. So another thing that I'm going to demonstrate today is Mistyfuse. Mistyfuse is my favorite fusible web. It's the best product out there that makes your applique quilts soft, beautiful. It sticks really well. It's easy to use. And it has a few really unique features that I'd like to point out to you when I do a Mistyfuse demo today. So the Mistyfuse needs to be used with an applique pressing sheet. So we're going to also be demonstrating the applique pressing sheet today and how that makes it so easy to put fusible on the back of your fabrics, getting you ready for that rotary cut applique. So all of these products are part of our show specials. So I do have our show specials online on my website. So you can see all of our show specials in the template category on the Sue Pelland Designs website. So when you go on to Sue Pelland Designs, if you look at the shop tab, that's where you're going to find all of my templates. And under the templates, it has these show specials listed just like this, so you could see exactly what's in there. But the goal of these 3 sessions today, tomorrow, and Saturday is to explain everything that's in the show specials and why you would use them. Now, each of these products is available individually. You can get a template one at a time, but when you get the show specials, you really save a bundle on my bundles. So I'm going to explain to you what's in the basic package, what's in the standard package, and what's in the deluxe package, so you'll know which one is appropriate for you, which one you'd like to use to get started with rotary cut applique. So today we're going to get started with our quilter's chalk line. Tomorrow we're going to cover the Leaves Galore tools. And then on Saturday, we are going to be working with the Hearts and More tools. Now with the Hearts and More tools, the Leaves Galore tools, these are tools for cutting applique shapes. The two things that I'm going to demonstrate today are aids when you're cutting your applique shapes. They're the fusible web that you need on the back of your fabric and the quilter's chalk line that helps us to line up all of our applique shapes when we're making quilts that are based on a grid pattern. So let me give you an example of one of those quilts. First of all, the quilt behind me, the Melissa's quilt, that is a perfect example of a quilt that is applique on a grid. So when you're doing applique on a grid, the quilter's chalk line helps you to get all of those applique shapes lined up. So your applique can actually look like curved piecing, but we know how difficult curved piecing can be. So I try to avoid curved piecing. And I've replaced those curved piecing techniques like the orange peel with applique instead. And here's another example. This is my Hope's Diamond pattern, and I've used my applique tools to cut out the curved diamonds. So it looks like I've done curved piecing on this quilt, but it's really so much easier than that. The same with Melissa's quilt behind me. That is all a pattern that was normally or traditionally done with curved piecing, but we're going to do it an easier way instead. So if you have ever taken one of my workshops, and I do offer some online workshops, if you've ever taken one of my workshops, you've seen me use the quilter's chalk line, the Mistyfuse, and the goddess sheet, and probably one of my applique templates as well. So just as a little preview to what you can do with all those products, we're going to start with our quilter's chalk line. So I'm going to sit down here. I'm going to turn my camera so that you can see my workstation and what I'm working on. But I'm going to pull out one more quilt before I do that. Oh, let's do two more. Here is the promise ring quilt. This one's called a Christmas promise because it does feature those beautiful poinsettias and some bling on there and some Christmas colors. So a Christmas promise is one of my online workshops. And in that online workshop, we're going to be using the quilter's chalk line to lay out our applique in these straight rows and columns. So you can see how this tool is going to make this applique design much, much easier. So this is a whole cloth background. Then we're lining up our applique shapes with our quilter's chalk line. And let me give you just one more small example. And I'll give you this example as I change my camera to my workstation instead of the big picture. So just bear with me here as I move around that camera and we will give you another view. Okay, so here we are on my workstation here. Here's that phone that didn't work. Let's get that out of the way. And you're going to see a few different things on my workstation. First of all, let's look at those Rotary Cut Applique Show Specials. So on our Rotary Cut Applique Show Specials, we have a basic package that just includes the templates themselves for cutting your applique shapes. We have our Leaves Galore tools in 3 different sizes. The Leaves Galore Grande has a 4-inch and an 8-inch curve. The Leaves Galore Norm has a 3-inch and a 6-inch curve. And that Leaves Galore Petite has a 2.5 and a 5-inch curve. Now, when you use all 3 of these tools, you'll be able to make all of my patterns in all different sizes. So for example, the Melissa's quilt pattern. This pattern has 7 quilt sizes, from a miniature to a king. And by using the different sizes of the tools, you're just going to adjust the size of your melon shapes to be able to make this quilt in 7 different sizes. So here is a really small example of that quilt. That Melissa's quilt, this is the miniature size, and we do this one in a free online workshop. You're going to find this on my website under the workshop. September 10th, we're offering this free workshop. And this teaches you how to use the petite Leaves Galore tool to make this beautiful little quilt. Now, I call this a mug rug, or I use this as a mouse pad. So it's a great size for your mouse pad. And you can also use it as a mug rug. If you made this a little bit bigger, you could use this as a placemat. We use 4 of these for a mug rug. We use 1 of these little squares as a coaster. So this is a great little class that you can take free online with me to see what taking a Zoom class is like. So I love doing these Zoom workshops that we've just discovered by way of COVID-19. We'd have to switch all of our workshops to online workshops. And so in order for you to test out that online workshop, we're going to offer this class free on September 10th. Now, when you go onto my website, you're going to notice that there are other free workshops, and there's other workshops that you can take with me when you have all of our Rotary Cut Applique tools. So to get started, you can get the basic package, which has the 3 Leaves Galore tools and 4 of our Hearts and More tools. So the 4 Hearts and More tools come as template A, B, C, and D in a 4-piece package. So I have that package back here on the wall. When you get your basic package, you're going to get all 4 of the Hearts and More tools, and you're going to get all 3 of the Leaves Galore tools. When you put those 2 together, you've got all 7 tools that you need to do any one of my patterns and any one of my classes. So when you have the basic package, it also includes our Grace True Grips. Now, the Grace True Grips are used on the back of your tool to prevent those tools from slipping around. I've got the Grace True Grips right here on my Hearts and More tool, and I put them on both sides of the tool. That way, no matter which way I use this tool, I have the Grace True Grips on the back. Now, we also have a new design on the Grace True Grips. These Grace True Grips are leaf shaped, and they're perfect for our Leaves Galore tools. And then we have our heart-shaped True Grips, which are perfect for our Hearts and More tools. So whether you like the traditional clear Grace True Grips or the Hearts and Leaves True Grips, you can get that in the basic package. So the basic package comes with all 7 tools and 2 packages of the regular Grace True Grips. Now, we do sell the new Sue Pelland Designs Grace True Grips in the hearts and leaf shape as well, and these are available on my website. But when you get any of our packages, it comes with 2 of the traditional Grace True Grips. If you'd like to substitute the Sue Pelland Designs Grace True Grips, just put a comment out there, and I'll be able to see those comments as you are writing them, and I will be able to substitute that product in your package. Excuse me. So I see a whole lot of people out there on Facebook that are commenting here in our posts. I'm so glad you found me. I see Ann Henry from Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. Oh, I love it down there, Ann, and I have good friends there in South Carolina. Then let me just switch my camera again so you can see me. Then we have Karen Ridgway. Hey, Karen. And Karen is one of our, I'll change the camera. Sorry about that. Karen is one of our Ahead of the Curve members. So when you're taking online workshops with me, One of the ways that you can do that is by becoming a member of Ahead of the Curve. Ahead of the Curve is our membership program where we are giving our members one course every month that's included with their membership. So with that one course every month, you can learn all the ins and outs of using your Leaves Galore and your Hearts and More tools with all different projects. Okay, so let's get back to the topic at hand, but I want to go ahead and see who else is out there. Marty, that's so nice that you are here. Thank you for joining us. Hey, Sharon, nice to see you here. You bought everything at the Paducah Quilt Show and you love them. That's wonderful. Well, I hope you'll learn a little bit more about using your tools today as I show you some of these techniques. Hey there from Naples, Florida. Lynn, so nice to see you today. And Karen, I'm glad that you're here from Tennessee. You love your Ahead of the Curves classes. That's great, Betty. So Betty's one of our Ahead of the Curve members, and she's taking online workshops with me every month on the Ahead of the Curve. So you can be a member of Ahead of the Curve. That gets you one class every month, a discount on our website, and access to our private Facebook community. Or as a member of the public, you can take my workshops individually. You don't have to sign up for one every month. You can just take one just to see how much you're going to love it. Now, we do have some free workshops, but we also have all kinds of other workshops that will get you comfortable using your tools. So the standard package is just that. It has the basics. It has all 7 of the tools and 2 packages of the Grace True Grips. That's our basic package. Then you might want to think about having both of my books, the Hearts and More Rotary Cut Applique book and the Leaves Galore Rotary Cut Applique book. Has all different ideas of how to use your tools and beautiful projects in that book. Now you'll see that this project uses a grid to lay out your applique background. So that's what I want to talk about today as well. I want to talk about laying out that grid and how we're going to use the quilter's chalk line to do it. So in our standard package, we do include all 7 of the Hearts and More and the Leaves Galore tools. We include the quilter's chalk line. That way you can get started on all of the projects in the book that are based on a grid. We also have the 2 books included in that standard package. Now, those books are not just pattern books. They are books that show you everything that you can do with your tools. All of the different techniques are in there, including marking quilting designs, scalloped and serpentine edges like this one up here on your quilts, marking feather quilting designs, and cutting out all those beautiful applique shapes. So Suzanne, you have all of my products, but you haven't used them yet. So I'm glad you're here. I'm going to give you a little taste of what it's like to use your tools for these beautiful projects. And I would love for you to come take an online workshop with me. And if you really enjoy the online workshops, you'll want to consider getting Ahead of the Curve, which is our membership to teach you all the ins and outs of using the tools. So one last thing, I do want to go through our deluxe package so you know what's included in that deluxe package. A lot of you have bought all of these products already, and now you just want to learn how to use them. But I want to just explain for you, those of you that are new to me, how you can get your hands on these tools so that you can start taking these workshops or making these beautiful applique quilts on your own with the help of the tools, my books, my patterns, and we also have some video tutorials on my website. So the deluxe package has everything that we've already mentioned. It has all 7 of the tools, the quilter's chalk line, 2 packages of Grace True Grips, both of my books. Then we have the chalk line, the chalk wheel, which I'm going to use today in the demonstration. We have the Fat Goddess sheet by Mistyfuse, That's that applique pressing sheet that you use to put the fusible on your fabric. And then the last two things that it includes is the best rotary cutter out on the market today. That's the Olfa Quick Change Rotary Cutter. You change your blade like this, fast as can be. You take your old blade out, put your new blade in, and with one flick of your finger, you've got your blade changed. It also comes with 2 brand new blades. So these 2 items are included in the deluxe package along with everything else that I've listed. So if you don't have your tools yet, this is the best way to get your tools. And if you already have all of these tools, let's get to it. So on my website, I do carry lots of different products. And one of the things that I have on my website is fabric. So I've just gone and grabbed my bolt of black fabric, and I've cut a piece of black fabric that we can use for our chalk line demonstration. So let's change the camera down to my workstation. So once again, you can see what I'm working on here in the studio. So if I'm going to make a little quilt like this, I need to be able to line up my applique shapes in straight rows and columns. So let me show you the easiest way to do that. I'm going to grab my quilter's chalk line, and inside is a bottle of iron erase chalk. Now, I already have my chalk line here and my iron erase chalk that I use every single day. And this powdered chalk is no longer available. So I have probably a couple hundred of these chalk lines left with the powdered chalk. And that's the only way you're going to be able to get this combination is from me here at Pelland Designs. So the quilter's chalk line, the iron erasable chalk come together in the package. Now, in addition to that, you would also probably really enjoy having a chalk wheel like this. Now, the ones I currently have on my website, they're a prettier color. We have this pretty little blue color now. And this blue one is filled with yellow chalk. Well, I never use yellow chalk on my quilts. That tends to stain, especially if you iron it. So don't use that yellow chalk. Go ahead and throw that chalk away. What you want is the case that has this beautiful little wheel right here that makes gorgeous lines with your powdered chalk. So you're going to take the powdered chalk that comes in the quilter's chalk line. You're going to add that powdered chalk right here inside of this tool. There's a little stopper here normally. You take the stopper off, you throw away the yellow chalk that comes with the tool, you add some of my powdered chalk, and then you have a product that you can use with your tools or by itself to make beautiful curved lines just like that. Now, these are fabulous for marking quilting designs, and that's what I want to focus on today. We're not going to use our tools today to cut the applique shapes. We're going to use our tools as quilting design tools. So let me get my iron over here, and I'll show you why I love these products so much. With a very hot iron, you're going to be able to remove those chalk lines and all this dust that I made from filling up that chalk line. That's just going to go away when I use the hot iron to remove that chalk, because I want to show you on a clean slate here how I'm going to mark the lines for a quilt like this. So to put our applique in straight rows and columns, we're going to use our quilter's chalk line, and we're going to put a pin in. I'm using this mat that has grid lines on it. This is one of those mats that you would use to protect your dining room table if you are cutting a sewing pattern. So it's called a pattern cutting board. Now I'm going to just snap that line, and then I'm going to move my pin over by 2.5 inches, and I'm going to snap a line again at the 2.5 inch mark. So you can get these boards at Joann Fabrics. You can get them just about anywhere. I think you can get them on Amazon. I like having one of these boards because I'm able to line up my chalk lines at really accurate intervals. So every 2.5 inches, I'm marking that chalk line. If my line starts to get faint, you're just going to wind up your chalk wheel again. You have added chalk right in here to put that powdered chalk in. You're just going to lift up this little rubber stopper, and now you've got the string turning inside of that chalk, and you're going to be able to snap a nice dark chalk line. Now you'll notice it does leave some powder. That's okay, because this is iron erasable chalk, and none of that powder is going to show once you put your applique shapes onto your grid, and then you iron your applique shapes in place. So now that I have my grid lines marked, we want to switch gears. We want to talk about the applique. But you know what? While I have this out here and while I have it all marked, let's talk about marking quilting designs. If I'm not making an applique quilt like this, or maybe I've already made my applique quilt and I want to mark some grid lines on my fabric in order to do my quilting. Let me give you an example right here. So this is a quilt that we made in our Hearts and More Techniques workshop. We learn all the different techniques for the Hearts and More tools and how to make all these gorgeous applique shapes. But you'll notice my background is cross-hatched and stitched with my sewing machine. So in order to do this type of quilting, I'm going to use the walking foot on my sewing machine. I'm going to mark a 1-inch grid on my fabric, and then I'm going to quilt that grid out using the walking foot on my domestic machine. Now you can do hand quilting as well. This quilt was made by my mom. My mom loves to do hand quilting, and we made the applique frames using the Leaves Galore tool. We made the applique border using the Leaves Galore tool, and then we used our chalk line, we used, actually on this one, we used a hero marker to make our straight lines. If this were a darker color, we would have used our chalk line. So let me show you how we make those grid lines. Now, I said that on my quilts, I normally quilt at 1-inch intervals. So I'm just going to split the difference here. I'm going to go right ahead and make another line here, and then I'm going to go right across and make my grid in the opposite direction as well. Once I have those grid lines, I can quilt that grid, and this chalk will stay for quite a long time. It will brush away eventually, but you can see I'm really working at it, and it's still staying really well. So I can quilt on those lines, and then after quilting, I can wash the quilt, or I can just swipe it with the iron. Now, while I have those quilting lines there, I want to show you what we can do with our tools and that chalk wheel. So the chalk wheel, get some of these things out of the way here so I can move down. Okay, the chalk wheel is made for your curve lines. So I'm going to line up my template. There's a straight line that runs right down the side that has a 2.5-inch curve. If I put my chalk line on the straight line of the tool, I'm going to be able to mark that 2.5-inch curve equally above and below the line. Now, let's say I want to do a feather design. What I like to do is mark a central spine, and then I go ahead and mark a line on each side of the central spine, just by pulling that tool over and marking 3 parallel lines. Now, with my walking foot on the sewing machine, I'm going to stitch out this central line. That gives me the basis for my feather. Then I'm going to put my free motion foot on my machine, and I'm going to get out my courage, and I'm going to try some free motion quilting. If you can make half of a heart, you can do free motion quilting and the feather design. So you're going to practice that shape, half of a heart. You're going to practice that over and over and over again. Once you've learned how to make half of a heart, you're going to connect them all together. Now, this tool is not made for going in both directions. So this is not the best tool for showing you how to make that half of a heart. But can you imagine your free motion foot on your sewing machine going right around that half heart? Then you're going to practice your half heart the other way. You're going to use the free motion foot on your machine, and you're going to practice half of a heart going in the opposite direction. Okay, after you've got that motion, you're going to fill in this side with half of a heart in the opposite direction. So that is how we tackle those feathers. Now, how do we go around our corners? Let's mark another line down this way to signify our 90-degree turn here, our corner. So when I'm marking and I need to go around the corner, I'm going to just erase some of these lines so it doesn't get too confusing. Let's go ahead and erase some of these lines with our iron. And I'm going to erase these lines right here with my iron so that we're going to pretend that we have a border on our quilt. And the center of that border is here and here. Now I'm going to use the opposite side of my tool this time. I'm going to use the 5-inch curve. And I'm going to put that 5-inch curve, the straight line right down the middle of that 5-inch curve, right on that straight line. And now I'm going to mark this edge. Now you'll notice that I use the edge of the tool here on this straight line. By marking an outside curve and then turning your tool, use this straight line against the straight line that you've marked right down the center of your border. You're going to be able to center this 5-inch curve to go down the other side of your quilt, and you end up with this beautiful round corner. Now you'll notice that round corner when I switch back and you see the serpentine line on, the serpentine edge on the Melissa's quilt. That serpentine edge was made with this technique. So you can mark serpentine and scalloped edges on your quilts like this beautiful serpentine edge here. You can also use this technique when you're turning the corners for quilting. Here's a quilt with a scalloped edge, and I use that same technique. So in my book, it teaches you all of those different techniques. It teaches you all about quilting with your tools and that feather quilting that I mentioned. And these books, here's chapter 9, Vine, Serpentine, and Scalloped Edges. Here's the scalloped edge from the quilt that's hanging up behind me. When you have the books, you're going to have all of the information you need to get started with your tools. But if you want a little bit more than that, if you want me to actually come in and practice with you, then you're going to want to join Ahead of the Curve, which is our membership program. And you can get a different course each month where you learn some of these great techniques. So let's turn our attention from marking for quilting to actually making our applique shapes. So this sample represents all 5 applique shapes, or 5 of the applique shapes that you can make with your Leaves Galore tool. This particular sample was made with the Norm Leaves Galore tool. We have our 3-inch curve as a vine. We have our 6-inch curve as a different size vine. We've got 6-inch leaves and 3-inch leaves, and these leaves we can cut up to a dozen at a time. We have our S-shaped curves and the larger S-shaped curves from the opposite side of the tool. And we have our lemon-shaped leaves and our smaller lemon-shaped leaves from the other side of the tool. Now, all of these shapes are used in the patterns in the book. And I'm going to show you a really nice example of that lemon-shaped leaf. The lemon-shaped leaf is made with the large side of the template, and that was placed on a grid to make this beautiful Magic Carpet Ride quilt. Now, we just did a class in the Magic Carpet Ride. We did a table runner, but it's a wonderful way to learn these different techniques. Okay, let me just put that book away, but I want to show you one more thing today. We want to get our fabrics prepared for applique. So we're going to need to switch operations here. Instead of marking, we're going to need to do some fusing. So let me get my fusing station right here in front so that you can see what I'm doing. Oh, it's stuck. Okay, so here we are. We have our applique pressing sheet, and now we need my pressing mat. Sorry, it's stuck on my other table, but here we go. So this pressing mat that I'm using was made by Tracy and Tim Kennedy. When I go out on the road and I do these shows, I meet all of these other wonderful vendors. Now, Tracy and Tim Kennedy have TNT quilt boards. They made this beautiful portable ironing board for me. It has really nice legs. It's great quality. It stands up here on my table, or I can put those legs down. And it's got a nice little carrier for bringing it to workshops. Okay, so I love to promote other vendors that have become friends of mine as I have been traveling around to these quilt shows. So I have just your basic batik fabric here, and I want to put fusible on the back of my fabric. The fusible that I'm using is Mistyfuse. This is the softest, lightest weight fusible out on the market today. It comes in all different formats. You can get it as a 50-yard roll. You can get it in a 100-yard roll. We have it as a 10-yard package in our show special. So that's the deluxe show package, includes a 10-yard package of Mistyfuse. It also has this fat goddess sheet by Mistyfuse. Now, the goddess sheets are available in lots of different sizes, but the only one that I sell is the 21 by 27 inch, the fat goddess sheet. So let me explain to you how you use the fat goddess sheet and the Mistyfuse in order to get your fabric ready for rotary cut applique. So I'm going to take that applique pressing sheet and I'm going to lay it out on my work surface so that when I fold that applique pressing sheet, this round corner that's cut out of the corner right here, let's see if I can show that to you. That rounded corner is in my bottom right-hand corner. Now, why do I say that? Well, the easiest way to use the applique pressing sheet or the most effective way to use the applique pressing sheet is to use the same side of the sheet every time. When you are using this sheet, it's hard to tell which is the right side and the wrong side of the sheet because there is no right or wrong side. But when you put this sheet down the same way every time, when you fold it, it's going to have the curve right here in my bottom right-hand corner. When I do it that way the same every time, that means I'm using the same side of the sheet every time. Now I forgot to bring my scissors over here, so I'm just going to iron and pull away my Mistyfuse as I iron, because what that's doing is it's melting the Mistyfuse. So instead of cutting it, I'm just melting it and getting rid of that excess fusible. Okay, now I'm going to iron my fabric and fusible together. It takes a hot iron for just a few seconds. Now, here's a tip. When you're using your applique pressing sheet, try not to iron over the fold. If you iron over the fold over and over and over again, it's going to weaken that fold, and you're not going to get as long of a use out of your applique pressing sheet. It'll end up tearing here along the fold, and you'll end up with 2 pressing sheets instead of 1, which is perfectly fine. I've done that a couple of times, and I do have several of these sheets that are split down the middle, and that's just fine. So I'm pressing with a nice hot iron, and then I'm going to peel away my applique pressing sheet, leaving the fusible behind on the fabric. Now, how do you know when you've pressed that long enough? You're going to peel away your applique pressing sheet, and as long as there's no fusible sticking over here on the sheet, it's all over here on the fabric, then you've pressed it long enough. But go ahead and test that across the whole piece. Make sure you're watching and that fusible is well stuck right on the back of that fabric. Now the fusible and the fabric are all together. You can see how shiny it is. So that shiny side comes from your applique pressing sheet. It's the slickness of the sheet that gives your fusible its shine. So by doing that with the applique pressing sheet, you have a nice shiny Mistyfuse on the back of your fabric. And then we are ready to use that fabric in order to cut out our applique shapes. So let me come back to you here on screen. Tomorrow, we are going to be focusing on the Leaves Galore templates and all the different ways that we can use Leaves Galore to make those beautiful applique shapes. But before I move on, I want to see some of the comments that you have. You love to quilt feathers, Pat Minute. Great. And these tools will help you get your feathers accurately marked all the way around your quilt with beautiful corners. It's so easy to do. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia says you simply do the best online teaching, and I appreciate that. I love teaching. I love teaching online because during this pandemic, I can be with you and not alone in my studio. So thank you so much. So many times I went to play, but what is the minimum cut of fabric for playtime? Now that you've taken one of my Zoom classes, you have a good idea. Okay, Elaine, thank you for that comment. A good rule of thumb is that your fabric size needs to be wider than your tools. I've dropped one of my tools on the floor. Let me just get that tool. Okay, my fabric size needs to be wider than my tool. So for the 18-inch tool, I like to use maybe a 14-inch piece of fabric. For the 12-inch tool, the 15-inch tool, a 12-inch wide piece of fabric works really well. So just a couple of inches short of the size of your tool. Now, as far as how big across, it doesn't matter because I'm going to start cutting over here and I'm going to keep cutting as far as I can until I run out of fabric. So I do prepare all of my fabric first. That way, everything that I cut out of this fabric is fused and ready to go. So let's talk a little bit about why I use Mistyfuse. Mistyfuse is the softest, lightest weight fusible web out there that really bonds super well. And you can get around all of your applique shapes with your decorative machine stitching when you have Mistyfuse on the back. I use Mistyfuse because it's super soft, lightweight, inexpensive, and easy to use. All of those additional products that are in the other fusibles, you don't need them. They cause problems. They stick to your needle when you sew. They leave... Sometimes you can see them right through your fabric and you see the texture of the fusible under your fabric. I hate that. So Mistyfuse is the best product out there to do the fusible applique. And once you try it, you're going to love it. And that's why we include the Fat Goddess sheet and a 10-yard package of Mistyfuse in that deluxe show special. Okay, June, thank you. Your Zoom classes are the best. Love how you demonstrate ironing the fusible and pulling it away. Good. Yes, thank you for that. Okay, I'm glad, Donna, that you learned so much today. I really hope that you are going to take these tools, if you already have them, take these tools out of your pegboard. Get them down off your pegboard, dust them off, and let's start using them. The best thing, the best silver lining to this pandemic is how I've been able to work with all of you here on Facebook Live, as well as on my Zoom online classes. I started the membership because I love teaching. I want all of you to use the tools that you have to take them out and start making beautiful applique quilts. And we can do that together. So that's why I'm here today. We do have all 3 show specials out on our website. We are going to be giving a free gift with purchase. So if you are here, I'd love to know about it. I've got your names here. If you leave a message for me in the comments, Penny's here with us, and Penny, my event coordinator, is going to be keeping track of who is here with us, and you're going to get a free gift with your purchase today, tomorrow, and the next day. So as I demonstrate products and show you some of those products that I carry in my website shop over the next 3 days, you can keep adding to your shopping cart. You can, let me just put that shopping cart up there so you know what that is. SuePellandDesigns.com. Now let me just do one thing. I have not been able to get that free shipping coupon code working. So right now we're going to get rid of that. And okay, once we get that free coupon code working, you're going to find the coupon code in my newsletter. My newsletter should come out later today. The coupon code, because I have a new website, it wasn't working this morning. So I went out there to my web designer. She's going to fix that for us. Then you'll be able to shop at SuePellandDesigns.com. You'll be able to use that free shipping coupon code, and you'll be able to get your own set of Leaves Galore and Hearts and More tools. So all of the other products that I have back here on the wall, and let me move this way so you can see, all these other products we are going to be demonstrating over the course of the next 2 days. We're going to be talking about the Leaves Galore tools and all the different ways to use them. We're going to show you the Hearts and More tools and all of the different ways to use those. And then I'm going to go through all of the notions that I have over here on my website. And I'm going to show you why we use glow line tape in our classes. Why do we use this beautiful little iron cleaner? When do we need our quilting gloves for applique? When we use our Roxanne glue based it for applique, how this Nest handy organizer keeps all of my tools exactly where I need them on my table, and how we're going to use our Hera marker for marking with the tools as well. All of these gadgets I'm going to be trying to show you over the next 2 days. And I'm going to show you a different technique with each of the tools. So our technique for Saturday, I wanted to show you, is the Blue Moons quilt. And on that Blue Moons quilt, we have a beautiful piped binding. So we're going to talk about the pipe binding. We're going to talk about making the Blue Moons quilt. And that's all on Saturday. Tomorrow, we're going to tackle Leaves Galore. And I'm going to be showing you some of the workshops we have coming up with Leaves Galore. And one of our most popular classes is that Hopes Diamond quilt. So if you'd like to join me for a workshop, we've got Hopes Diamond coming up. We've got our fabric frames coming up. That's that red quilt that I showed you earlier. And we have our 2 free workshops as well. So that's it for me for today on our no-show show. I hope that you have enjoyed this little refresher course on why you bought those tools in the first place. And if you don't already have my tools, I hope that you'll get yourself a set of tools so that you can join us and learn all of these fabulous rotary cut applique techniques. Janet, you're interested in the piped binding? When you're here on Saturday, remind me, because I do get off topic and I end up talking about different things. So remind me on Saturday to talk about the pipe binding. I see Valerie Lee out there. Valerie's one of our certified instructors. If you love teaching applique and you love my tools, you too can become a certified instructor. So that's just another option down the road when you find out about all of my tools. You're welcome. I love doing these demos. I'm so glad you were here. Go to SuePellandDesigns.com and you can get all of these products and all of these tools that I've been showing you today. And we will be back tomorrow at 11. It's so nice to see you all. Take care.